Now, many of you are going to recognise the road that I'm currently walking down, and that is because this is the path that goes around one of the UK's busiest big fish day ticket waters. In this video, you join Luke and I to test out some brand new bits of kit from Daiwa.
We are indeed at Brasenose 1, and it's a lake that I've only ever fished once in my life for one night, and of course I blanked. So hopefully this session isn't going to be a repeat of that. We do have 24 hours ahead of us, so fingers crossed we can get amongst them. But this is swim 9, Iain is over in swim 7, and swim 8 is actually closed off now. So technically we are still neighbours, and before you get all excited, no, it's not closed off for us. That swim was basically too close between 7 and 9. So Linear made the decision to actually close it. But this is a big open water swim, as most of the Brasenose swims are. You can fish up to 33 wraps. We're not fishing quite as far as that. We'll talk to you about our baiting approach and things like that in a little bit, because we are working together. On sessions like this, there's no point trying to compete against each other. You might as well try and work together. At the end of the day, we both want to catch fish. So we'll talk to you about that in a little bit. But the rods that we've got with us are absolute beasts. Now, I mentioned in the previous Daiwa video that we are going to be getting the creme de la creme, and we very much have got them. But again, that is something we'll talk about a little bit later. But we've had a quick lead about, and to be honest, there's nothing really that notable in the swim. It's quite open, it's quite vast, it's quite silty, it's quite hard silt, so we're confident that we can get a bait presented, and it's literally a case of just getting into the session, starting to get a bit of bait out, and just going for it and doing everything we can to try and get one of these Brasenose monsters on the bank.
So now you know all about Luke's peg, I guess it's time to take a look at mine. This is peg 7 on Brasenose 1, and I haven't actually done a great deal of fishing on the Linear complex over the years, but every time I do, it's always exciting because I know the whole complex holds some amazing fish. This particular peg, I've got an average depth of around 12 to 14 foot with no real prominent features out there. It's quite a sort of soft, silty bottom with a band of weed running through at about 75 yards. Now, all of the swims on Brasenose 1 have got limits that you must keep your cast within, obviously just so you don't interfere with anyone else's fishing. The limit on this particular peg is 33 wraps. Now, 33 wraps is a very long way for anyone to cast with any kit. So I've pulled my rods back slightly and I'm fishing very effectively, I might add, at 30 wraps, and the kit that Daiwa have supplied is making that nice and easy for me. Anyway, that's enough of me waffling on about a swim. I guess it's time we should take a look at our baiting approach.
Okay, now things are a little bit more settled, we're a little bit more set up, we can talk about how we're going to actually approach this session in terms of how we're fishing it, because I mentioned earlier about us actually working as a bit of a team, and how we're baiting it as well.
Yeah, so when you come on a big trip like this, you quite often come with a load of mates, and it all turns into a bit of a versus, a rivalry, or whatever you want to call it. But on several different sessions now, we've sort of almost worked together to try and bank fish.
Yeah, and it definitely works.
Yeah.
So the way we're doing it, basically, where we're in the swims next to each other, we've had a feel about, and we found an area about 120 yards, it's about 30 wraps, which is, what, just like a hard silt?
Yeah.
So it's literally just a void, but it feels good. We can easily present on there, and we can easily both reach that spot. So the idea of this is that our inner rods, if you like, between the two swims will both be going to that spot on its own. This way we can both bait it, we can kind of share the burden of baiting up, because as you guys probably know, Brasenose is very much a heavy baiting water. Now, we're not saying turn up, but loads out straight away. But since we've been here today, we're literally watching swim after swim after swim, putting more and more and more bait in, and the fish react to it. And that's why people do catch numbers of fish at times.
100%. Like, I mean, we watched a guy, a couple of swims down, spom,
bite,
rod rattled off. Like, it is, when people say a spom can be a dinner bell for a carp,
this is the venue they're talking about.
Yes, 100%.
So yeah, basically we're going to be sharing that spot, and we're going to be putting a whole mixture of bits and pieces. But there's one key ingredient that neither of us have ever fished with before, which screams Lydia.
Yes, and that is, of course, the humble worm.
I was going with humble. I was thinking that, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, neither of us have ever used worm before. To be honest, I didn't even know how much to order when I went onto the website to order it.
Yeah.
So we went with a couple of kilos, and yeah, we figured we'd figure the rest out when we got here.
Yeah, so as you guys know, potentially, worm is very, very attractive to carp, and it's the amino acids that the worm gives off that basically the carp just hone in on. So that is what we're going to be focusing on. But like I say, we are doing a bit of a mix because we need to make sure that gets down to the bottom. So we're doing a mixture of crushed 𝗲𝗿, of chopped 𝗲𝗿, we've got some small pellets, we've got some maize, we've got all sorts really. But then the worm is hopefully going to be the thing that really brings them in. But by mixing it with all of that, you're going to get all that different kind of attraction, all the different food signals, which are going to be pinging out all over the place, hopefully then drawing the fish in to our spot.
Yeah, and seeing as we're sharing the baiting, in theory, we'll be sharing the bites.
Hopefully.
That's the theory.
But we are going to be fishing, sorry, button in there, separately as well. So we've got the one main spot in the middle, which hopefully is going to be, I feel like that's our banker spot.
Oh yeah, I do as well. Yeah.
It might not be. It might
just be because it's exciting, because we've not used the worm before. So, but yeah.
Yeah, but then on the outer rods, we are going to go with our traditional methods. So we're both very much 𝗲𝗿 anglers, and I feel like this sees a lot of bits and pieces, but it probably doesn't see just a big spread of whole 𝗲𝗿s.
No, I don't think it does at all. So
that on my left rod is what I'm going for. Slightly shorter, at about 25 wraps on that one. And there's a nice nice skyline marker, so nice and easy to get that to. But I'm going to fish 2 rods on that. I normally only fish 2 rods all in, but this session I am using all 3. We've been sent high-end gear, we might as well make use of it.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 rods on that one, and yeah, I'm just going to be topping up over the course of the session, probably 10-15 spoms here or there. You know, if we're getting bites or if we're seeing fish and then that activity kind of diminishes, it's just a case of reading the swim and keeping at it really.
Yeah, and I've gone for a very similar thing as well. So on my right hand rod, I am actually only fishing 2 rods because I am still a firm believer that 2 rods on a venue that is always absolutely hammered, less line in the water, I feel can make the fish feel just that little bit safer in your zone, if you like. So yeah, I am still just fishing the 2 rods at the moment. If however I do see something, there's a very good chance I will flick that 3rd rod out onto it. You'd be absolutely silly not to fish at a showing fish and try and get a quick bite. So so my right hand rod, again, as Luke said, very similar, a nice widespread 𝗲𝗿 approach, straight 𝗲𝗿 with a straight bottom bait. And on a venue like this, not only the 𝗲𝗿 but also a bottom bait, I think is something which is super rare.
There's going to be a lot of high vis Ronnies going
There
out.
is, 100%.
So if you can do something different, always try and do something different. But on that note, talking about bait,
we need to get some done.
Should we get some bait out there?
Yep, we need to. Let's do it. Now I am predominantly a 2-rod angler, and I don't really care if a venue allows 3 or 4 rods. I still like to fish with 2. I feel that I can fish 2 rods extremely efficiently. But in this particular scenario where I've got 2 nice baited spots out in the swim and then a fish is showing at close range at just literally 40 yards, I think I need to just chuck a 3 bait string on it and see what happens.
So the thing with Brasenose that everyone kind of talks about is the fact that the fish just move onto you. And from the fizzing we're seeing out on our worm spot, it looks like the fish have moved on to us. There's a very good chance, I think, that we could have a bite very soon. So we're going to sort out a couple of bite cams, and hopefully the next clip you'll see is a rod screaming off.
That's a bite.
That's going. Well, I said about them fizzing up and hoping that the next shot you're going to see was a reel screaming. Unfortunately, we moved the cameras, but the reel did start screaming. So this is on the 𝗲𝗿 spot. And yeah, literally bobbin just picked up and then just went. So I've got absolutely no idea what it might be, because it could be anything from a 15-pounder to a 50-pounder, which is a little bit crazy. But it's a bite, and that is all that matters at the moment. God, these rods feel nice to play fish on. With Brasenose, it's very unlikely that that is going to be the only fish on that spot. So I want to get this straight back out, because if there's others there still feeding, then I've got a good chance of another bite. So let's get this out and then I'll show you the fish. He's probably not one of the lookers, if I'm completely honest. He's a bit of a funky shape, but I'm off the mark. I've got the first fish, and it's a 22-pound mirror. So very happy to have saved a blank quite early in the session. Fingers crossed. This is one of many. The rod's back out exactly where this fish came from, so there's definitely a chance of another quick bite. But they're slipping back and get a little bit of bait topped up over it. Awesome.
So by now you are most definitely wondering exactly what Daiwa kit we are using within this session. We've hinted at it quite a few times, saying just how posh and premium it is, and well, it is most definitely that.
It is. So I am using the Daiwa Basia rods, which they literally are top tier rods, aren't they?
Yeah,
They are.
There is nothing better.
No, they're literally like the Rolls Royce.
Well, we said earlier, there's a very good chance that you are using the best set of rods on the entire complex of Linear.
Yep.
And I am probably using the second best set of rods on the entire complex of Linear. And I'm
glad this isn't live, because there's a good chance of us getting mugged for
yes.
them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have got the Daiwa Basia rods, and the reels, I'm just going to have to check. We all know what Daiwa abbreviations are like. I've got the Daiwa 20 Tournament Basia 45 𝗂𝗍𝗶𝗆.
Nice, that's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. But what that translates to is a very, very high-end reel, which feels amazing. And I've got to say, playing that fish, the clutch was just an absolute dream.
I mean, it was just ticking over, like it was purring, wasn't it?
It literally
fantastic.
was.
Yeah, very cool.
So yeah, you've got the...
I have got the reel-wise, we've got the Basia SLD 45s. Now, I have actually previously used a set of those, so there was no surprises. They're still great, exactly the same as when I used them previously. So yeah, as I say, no surprises there. The rods, on the other hand, the Basia X45Xs in a 13-foot 3¼ Now, I've never used a set of 13-footers before, so that is like...
It's taken a bit of getting used to, hasn't it?
It has, most definitely. Like, casting technique needs to change quite dramatically, but they're very cool. Like, and the distance that is achievable, even with still having a light test curve, is very good indeed. But anyway, we're not going to get too in-depth on what we think of them, because as you probably know with these videos, we always do a dedicated video after giving you an in-depth look into the rods and reels throughout the session. Yeah.
But as it's getting a bit later and I've caught a fish,
I know exactly what's coming here.
Does that mean that the takeaway is on you?
Yes, I'll get the takeaway.
Nice.
Let's do it.
You can have it delivered to your swim. Delivered. We might notice that it's actually very, very, very dark, and that's because we had to wait about 2 hours for our pizza to turn up, and when it did, it was about the thickness of the box.
Yes, it was rather disappointing, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we were excited that it was going to be dropped off to our swim, which it was, and that part was amazing.
Apart from the drop-off took an hour and 10 minutes longer than it was supposed to.
It did, yeah. So basically, this is our evening update. We've had to come to the road because we thought there was more light. There definitely wasn't, hence why we've got a massive light and you've got moths flying around your face. So there's not much to update.
Not really. We've sort of refreshed all the rods about, what, 3-4 o'clock this afternoon. And there's no real reason to move anything or do anything. We're both fishing hardened hook baits over all of our spots. So yeah, they stay in situ now until hopefully we catch a monster.
It would be nice. I mean, we're just touching upon rigs. I know we said we'd talk about that another time, but obviously time is getting on and it's getting darker and darker. So like Iain said, we're using hardened hook baits. We've been going through the motions today, trying to get worm hook baits, haven't we? And it's been trial and error, and mainly error. Yeah,
numerous different rigs, all of which we were having issues casting a rig with worms as a hook bait at the distances that we're fishing at. Basically, the worms either seem to come off before they hit the water, or when you reel in, the worms are no longer there, and you don't really know if they came off on the cast or when you're reeling in.
So we decided that we'd opt for the hardened hook baits because that way we know that we will be fishing overnight. There's no grey area there, but we're still fishing over that worm mix. So we're still getting all that attractant there. We've got whole boilies, we've got chopped boilies in that mix. So by using the hardened hook bait, we know we're covered for the night, don't we? And we can go into the night confident.
Yeah, it's devastating if you were to reel in the morning and basically have no hook bait on.
Yeah,
like you've wasted that entire...
It wasn't worth that chance. We've got one fish under our belt. It would be nice to get a couple more. So should we call it for now?
Yep, let's do that. Let's go get our heads down. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you first thing with a monstrous carp.
With a beast of Brasenose.
Yes, £50.
£50,
nice.
Right.
Right, let's do it.
Well, last night was fairly quiet, to be honest, and unfortunately I've got to head off early. Iain's going to stay on for a little bit, I think just into the afternoon, to try and nick a last bite for the video. But first light this morning, I did have a screamer on the worm rod, and I will show you what that resulted in now, because it's a nice, typical, big, chunky Brasenose mirror. So let's get this away, then I'll show you the fish. Well, I said it was a true Brasenose mirror, a chunky one, and it's probably about as deep as it is long. This came in at £28 and is an awesome way to end our session here, or my session, because like I say, Iain's obviously going to be staying on for a little bit in the hope that he can get amongst them as well. But I'm going to slip him back, get on the road, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
So peg 7 is officially vacated and the van is full to the brim, and that can only mean one thing: it's time for me to get on the road. I've had a fantastic session down here on Brasenose 1. Obviously I am going home on a blank, which is a bit of a gutter, but one of those fish that Luke caught did come off of our sort of teamwork baited spot, so I'm going to count that as half mine. I'm not sure how he'll feel about that, but I guess we'll find out at some point. A massive thank you to the guys at Linear. They've made our stay incredibly comfortable, and of course a massive thank you to the guys at Daiwa for sending out that exquisite kit for us to use during this session. Keep an eye out for the tech video that's going to be all about that equipment, so you get the in-depth details that you're going to want. For now, as I say, I'm going to get on the road, so thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.